Wow, that was interesting to say the least. After I ungodly had to wake up at the ungodly hours at 4 a.m. in the morning just because Chris Paul got cut and I had to talk about it. Well, more information came out later today. I could barely focus at work today because all of this shit that was coming out. It was a hellstorm amongst Twitter for Clipper Nation. And yeah, so there's that. The Clippers ended up actually winning tonight's game against the Hawks. Oh, yay, yay, yay! They finally won a game! Oh! These guys had to cut Chris Paul just to freaking finally win a game? Now look, they beat the Hawks. Whoop-de-doodle-doo. They beat a Hawks team with no Kristaps Porzingis, no Jalen Johnson, and no Trae Young. Three of their best players on their team. Yeah, you probably should win that game. Like for Christ's sake, you should win. You should win that game if that's the freaking logic. They went out there, they handled business, they did what they needed to do. They got out to a hot start. Yeah, Atlanta freaking tried to make their little run and comeback. Yay! And then obviously they ran away with the lead. And then they got to the third quarter, which has been a problem for the Clippers every single game. And tonight, of course, it wasn't because you're playing an undermanned team. And of course, you should beat said team that has none of their best players playing tonight. Now we'll see how they look against Memphis on Friday. And then we got to see how they look against the Timberwolves on the next day. And then after the next day, then you go play the Houston Rockets. And then after the next day, you got to go back and play the Grizzlies at home, which I'll more than likely be in attendance because, I'm going to be over here with my sign that's going to be probably be saying fire Ty Lue and fire Lawrence Frank for the bullshit that they're doing. Now, let's get something straight. The Clippers got to win. Yay, 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 yay. They got to win. They finally got to win. They moved to 6 and 16. They're still under 500, and they still got a hell of a long way to go if they want to flip their season around. Only way for me to ever believe this fake nonsense is if they go out there and they go win 10 straight games. Go win 10 straight games, and maybe I'll consider the point of, you know what? Maybe it was actually okay to trade away, or not trade away, to release or cut your franchise GOAT of a player in Chris Paul. Because clearly, it seems like they came out today with some serious mindset today. So maybe he was a crazy problem up in that freaking clubhouse, and they just needed his presence gone. I'm not going to believe the fact that apparently a 40-year-old Chris Paul, with his ass being all in people's faces and shit like that, was a freaking cancer that brought these guys down in terms of not wanting to play. It got these coaches not wanting to play. I highly doubt that because essentially they ran the same exact rotations they've been running, with the exception you're taking out Chris Paul. So I refuse to believe at this point in time that apparently Chris Paul was this big cancer in this locker room that made such an impact of this team playing down to a level that they probably shouldn't be playing to. And again, at the end of the day, I still look at it this. They beat a underman Hawks team. Go out there and go beat a team you lost to embarrassingly at home in the Memphis Grizzlies on the road. You want to go make another statement and actually prove that's the case? Go beat Ant Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. You want to make another big impression to prove that he was this big cancer in your locker room, apparently? And I'll get to that in a second. Go into Houston and beat Kevin Durant and the tall ass Houston Rockets. And then you come home and, I don't know how the fan base will be acting by the time, but listen, this is me and this is my own personal opinion. Do not let these dudes off the hook whatsoever. That first game in Into a Dome, do not let these dudes off the hook. I don't even care if they go on the next few games and they win all of these games on the road. Do not let these guys be held off the hook. Clipper fans should go to Intuit Dome Monday, December 15th with as much visceral towards Lawrence Frank and Tyronn Lue as possible. Hold these clowns accountable. Because I refuse to accept Clipper fans walking into the building and not doing what they're going to say they're going to do on social media, and then they don't do it, and then guess what? They waste whatever money they waste to absolutely say nothing and cheer on a pathetic organization and a pathetic team that wants to just completely erase any of their history because, oh, we did not like Chris Paul telling us we need to be better. Now, the only other thing I want to say about this win is I don't know what the hell Chris Paul was saying, but clearly these guys came out with some effort, some actual urgency for once. Like, good God, I was watching this game and I'm like, oh, wow, they're coming out with some urgency. Huh? Color me surprised. That's what happens when you actually take the game seriously. And then when you come on in the second half, you don't even let the Hawks go on a run to try to get back in the game. You actually took it seriously, and you had an urgency to step their foot on or step your foot on their fucking throats and just finish them off. And next thing you know, ending moments of the fourth quarter, you can put your little young guy bench dudes in the game. Whatever. Only positive I like from tonight is Kobe Sanders. Kobe Sanders give you a nice 17 points. Another young player that continues to prove he needs minutes and he should have had minutes to start the fucking season off. But hey, the freaking player personnel guy legitimately just said, no, no, no to young guys. We're going to go old guys and we're going to create the unction in here. So we got one unk out in Chris Paul. There's a lot more unks they need to get out of the building. Starting with Brooke Lopez, who was again another DNP. Anyways. You're not here for me to talk about the Clippers winning against the lowly Atlanta Hawks. Go out there and go beat the Grizzlies on their home court. And then you go the next night and you go beat the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota. Jesus. It's freaking cesspool of an organization. And see, this is what they're going to do. They're going to think, oh, everything's happy in Wonderland, in Clipper Wonderland. We got to win finally. That's what the organization wants you to do. They want the fans to get back in the good graces because they know the visceral that the fans have been coming out on social media about today. They want this nice little measly cheap ass win that they're going to do, that they're going to parade around like they just won a Super Bowl or the NBA Finals and just act like, oh, yay! Don't you guys like us again? We gotta win. That's what you guys wanted, right? And there will be actually some dumbass idiots in the fan base that will actually accept it and for completely forget what the hell happened today. Unbelievable with this fucking team. Has some fucking shame. Can I also say I did not like the fact that Brian Seaman and Jim Jackson never even mentioned Chris Paul. So that only tells me Clippers media or their PR team clearly told them, shut the fuck up. Do not mention CP3 on the broadcast. Because I was hoping that they called out L. Frank. And they did not. They clearly did not speak about anything to do with Brian Seaman or with the Chris Paul crap. And Brian Seaman conveniently saying, well, look, at the end of the day, guys, I don't care who the Clippers were playing and who was out on the Hawks. At the end of the day, it still was a good win, and it was still a good win to see the Clippers come out and find a way to win and beat a team in the way that they beat because they desperately needed a win. That's corporate PR talk. That's communist dictator ran type of organizational mindset right there. And I like Brian Seaman as the play-by-play guy, but I was absolutely disgusted that he said that fucking statement. Have some fucking shame, Brian Seaman. They beat a freaking Hawks team without Trey Young, no freaking Jalen Johnson, and Kristaps Porzingis. With Kristaps Porzingis and Jalen Johnson, they kicked your ass into a dome. Get oh well, you know, who cares who they played on the other side? We lost won a lot of games. We lost a lot of games this past few slate. No, it actually does matter who you beat. And yes, that's coming from a Bears fan who everybody freaking complained. Oh, they haven't played anybody. They've only beaten these lowy teams. Please. I'll go use the same logic in the NFL like I'm going to use in the NBA. There's a reason why players make the top league in the league, and there's a reason why these players on the Hawks are NBA level players. For Christ's sake, the Lakers ended up not playing any of their dudes, or playing, I think, playing some of their top dudes, and the Hawks came out with nobody, and they still whipped them and beat them. So Brian Seaman can miss me with the whole extra shit about whatever. No, the Lakers fell asleep and they caught slacking. The Clippers actually took the game seriously and actually came with some urgency, and of course, that's why they didn't slip up today. Because if they did not take this game seriously and they came into this game lackadaisical with no urgency, they would have got caught and they would have lost this game. So I'm not here for the state-run propaganda. I'm against the organization till further notice. Anyways, enough of me talking about the Clippers and their great win that some fans, I hope a little chunk of the fan base, and definitely the organization will be propping up like as if it's nothing. I guarantee you the freaking players are going to be going into these interviews and be like, well, yeah, it was great to get this win. Hopefully they keep the whole thing of like, well, yeah, it's just one win that don't prove anything. That's the type of mindset they should be having. Yeah, that's just one game. We need to go out there and win the next game. Where it's that one game at a time mindset. Anyways, I get to this point. And while I say, hi, Grace, I hope you're watching the video. Oh. Anyways. Um, this morning, I already made my video at 4 in the morning talking about the dumbass Clippers cutting Chris Paul and why the fuck they decided to do that. At 3 in the morning, the way they decided to do it, right? So obviously this blew up all across social media. The national media ripped the Clippers apart for this, and shit like that. And it was kind of like, okay, well, clearly there's more to the story about this. Like, what the hell clearly happened behind the scenes that got the Clippers to even say we need to cut away from our franchise GOAT and send his ass home. So the news didn't really start to break out until the Run It Back podcast came out on air. And for people who don't know about the Run It Back podcast, they have Michelle Beadle, they have Chandler Parsons, they have DeMarcus Cousins, and then former Clipper player Lou Williams on the set. So we already know Lou Williams is fairly deep into this organization because of his ties there and him playing for the team, and he's got a good connection. The organization has a good connection with him. And basically, they asked him, so what led to this whole, hey, we got to let Chris Paul go, right? And basically, Lou Williams broke it down like this, essentially. Now, again, Lou Williams is a reputable source. He has a close connection to the Clippers. He actually played for the Clippers. He knows the people in the building. So he's a reputable source. So when he was doing his digging into the situation, apparently he found out that essentially Chris Paul was being the disruptor that he was, and he was being very critical of all parties involved within the Clippers organization. He was critical of his teammates, he was critical of the coaches, and he was even critical of the front office, and basically aka holding them accountable for their transgressions because they were a bad basketball team. They still are a bad basketball team, but they were just playing atrocious basketball. Dude is basically telling the players, we need to all do our part and we're not playing better. So basically, short story is he was calling out everybody within the organization for a job not well done and holding everybody accountable for their lack thereof, any seriousness that they were having, which doesn't surprise me. I figured, and I was throwing out this theory, thinking about it this morning, and as I was just thinking and just sitting on it, right? Right? You know how, again, on I believe it was Monday or whatever, we played the Miami Heat, right? Bless me. When we lost to Miami Heat, none of the beat reporters, none of anybody I that was affiliated with the Clippers, talked and we got any press clippings from them. The only person I heard speak about the Clippers was Norman Powell talking about how, yeah, he's pretty shocked that we were the record we were, which was 5-16 at the time. And he basically said, well, look, that's not my problem no more. Fuck them. I don't care. So that's their problem they got to deal with. That's not my problem. Like in Spider-Man 2 yeah, no, Spider-Man 3 where Peter basically says, or no, Spider-Man 1, my bad, where Peter tells the freaking landlord like, you missed the part where that's my problem, not the landlord, the wrestling dude, because his uncle's killer ended up running away with the money, and the dude is like, are you going to stop him? And Peter was like, well, you missed the part where that's my problem. That's basically what Norman Powell said on Monday in his press conference. He's not a part of the Clippers, and rightfully so. The way he should be talking about the Clippers, I don't blame him for talking about the Clippers. I bet you he feels the way like, oh, please, they could have me, and they'd probably be better right now if they had me on the team. I'd give them more efficient scoring. So, where was I at? Where was I at? Oh yes, the theory. So we heard nothing. And I was thinking, like, I wonder if they had some sort of team meeting and Chris Paul must have called these suckers out from each and every individual level known to God and calling these dudes out. And clearly, um, after, and hold on a quick second, hold on a quick second. Okay, back from that interruption. But as I was saying, um, clearly, he said what he had to say. It rubbed everybody the wrong way because they just don't like taking accountability for their actions. And basically, that all led to what essentially happened this early morning in Atlanta, Georgia. And with Chris Paul basically being sent home because then he posted to his story, I got told I'm being sent home, right? Pieces, right? So not exactly that happened, really, right? No, but I was close actually. I was really close. So the more the day started to go on in the morning, the more we started to find out a little bit more about what was going on. So apparently, we find out that this has not only been going on for just maybe a week or two. This has been going on and spending for weeks. So apparently, Chris Paul was being very critical of every party inside during the losing streak, and this started to wear out on the team. The team started to get their feathers ruffled. They started to feel some sort of way, to the point that Ty Lue, he stopped talking to him. Now, the whole thing in the story is Chris Paul, at some point in one of the reports, said he did apologize to the team for him, the way he was talking and the stuff he did. So, unless he must have said some heinous shit about somebody within the team, um, why did he have to apologize? Now, personally, I don't know why Chris Paul had to apologize. Why would he have to apologize? These dudes were playing sorry ass basketball all year long up until this point. Still up to this point, they are still playing sorry basketball because they're under 500 and they're 6-16. Why would he have to apologize to the team for what he said? Maybe because he probably figured, oh, it ruffled their feathers. So apparently, Ty Lue, the head coach of the team, wasn't even talking to this guy for weeks because apparently he must have got told Chris Paul must have been talking to him crazy, more than likely. telling him how much he probably needs to do a better job as a coach, which I don't blame him for saying because he needs to be a better coach. And apparently, while Chris Paul was trying to maybe schedule something, a meeting with Ty Lue basically brushed him aside and just didn't want to talk to him. Yeah, you see Ty Lue in the pregame press conference talk about, you know, I value Chris Paul as my friend. It just sucks that it had to happen the way it happened. Well, if he was your best friend, well, number one, a good friend always listens to another good friend when they tell the truth. Number two, if you were such a great friend, you would hear your friend out and be willing to accept what he has to say. And number three, you would be actually wanting to schedule this meeting to talk with your friend. But no, clearly Ty Lue ran away from the smoke because he got his ego and his panties were in a wad because he was upset somebody was checking him and telling him, dog, you suck at your job. Now, again, at the end of the day, was it, you need to be playing me more, Ty? Or you need to do better things in the rotation and stuff like that. We don't know the details. Only thing that maybe could happen is maybe Chris Paul tells a story and tells us what the hell happened internally. But clearly, Ty Lue, who didn't talk to Chris Paul for weeks and didn't even want to do a meeting with him, have a sit down meeting with him for weeks, mind you, because he got his ego hurt. That's not the first time I'll be saying that, mind you. So then this guy must have said some crazy shit to the front office. Now, I will say at the end of the day, those are the dudes that pay you the bucks that get you paid. They're the reason why they brought you back. I don't think it is in your best interest to talk crazy to the front office like that. But regardless, do I blame him for doing that? No, because he's probably seen that Lawrence Frank is a fucking sleazeball. So he held the front office accountable, and clearly 100% the front office didn't like it. And because of this, boom, it created some tension. More than likely, some teammates probably did not like what he had to say about them either. And this isn't old news. This goes back to dating back to the past. And the thing is, Chris Paul has always been a demanding type of player where, sometimes his attitude wears thin on people because, listen, Chris Paul is a highly competitive person and he wants to win. Now, listen, I'm a highly competitive person myself. I like to frickin', you know, go crazy and talk and everything about my teams and how we need to be better and things like that and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, again, we don't know what was said in the locker room. If he said something like absolutely crazy where he was saying some insane shit to the point maybe it was getting a little bit personal, like, okay, maybe you can cross a line, but at the end of the day, I personally think this team needed shit like that because they were playing like sorry asses. Like this team was literally getting good first halves, and then they come out in the second half, third quarter on, and they completely piss down their legs and absolutely just lose the game from there on then on. Right? So I don't blame Chris Paul for wanting to hold these guys accountable. You look at the roster right now. Who is one guy in the roster that you can 100% say he should be holding this dude accountable? Number two isn't going to do it because he's a mute. He's not a leader. Kawhi does things on Kawhi time. If he's got a injured leg, I gotta go take out 3 months because guess what? I don't want to do this. James Harden, albeit he's been a solid Clipper in his tenure, well, he's kind of I do my own thing too, and I'm kind of lazy and I'm kind of chill. I'm that chill guy, right? Zubac is really a coward. Nobody else doesn't have that strong-minded personality in the locker room. And clearly, he must have said something that rubbed all these players the wrong way and these players clearly didn't like being held accountable for their terrible play. and it rubbed off on them, and maybe it had effect on their play. Apparently, from one night in to post, let's send CP3 home, it looks like they come out with more urgency because I guess apparently that thing on their back, that monkey off their back, that quote unquote, I guess if you want to say cancer off their back, got removed. Now, at the end of the day, the team also probably saw it as that. Like, why are you bringing up all this talking crap, but you're only averaging 2 points per game? What do you have to say when you're playing like complete dog shit yourself? But personally, if you ask me, Chris Paul has the pull to be able to say shit like that. Ty Lue wasn't here in Chris Paul's prime with the Clippers. Lawrence Frank was here, but he was an assistant coach. He knew what the type of personality Chris Paul is. Any of these players were not here when Chris Paul was here in the prime. And if anything, I would honestly be really like, oh, this dude actually gives a damn. Like he actually is freaking caring that we need to be better. You should be taking that like overjoyed. You should be happy to hear that, hey, we have a guy in our locker room that is going to hold us accountable. And clearly, the Clippers looked at him and they're just like, huh, oh, brother, great. And then that's what led them to doing the devious thing to do in cutting him and cutting him in a way that was disrespectful. The only way the Clippers can rectify this is if they turn their season around completely, they rat off wins, they find a way to get a seed where they're missing the play-in, and Lord have mercy, shit, maybe they find a way to get into the second round for once. Shit, maybe find a way to get to the Western Conference Finals, which is not happening. Not happening. Not even the second round shit is happening. But if you were to do that, maybe then the national media could look at you and be like, you know what? Maybe they were actually right to do that move. Right? So we find out that Lawrence Frank ended up actually flying to Atlanta to have this discussion with Chris Paul because he talked about how he felt like he owed it to Chris Paul to speak with him and it was better than just giving him a call over the phone. So he flew to Atlanta to talk with him and have this meeting. That's where he basically told him, hey, dude, thanks, but no thanks. We're going to let you go. And that's when they send him home. So then Lawrence Frank, he ended up having a press conference over Zoom where he talked to the media about this whole thing and stuff like that today. And geez Louise, man, it was just, when I'm telling you, dude, it was just straight like, it was just straight PR disaster, tone deaf shit right there. Um, Look, man, it really disgusted me. It really put me in a really bad mood the rest of the freaking day because it's like, dog, ain't no way you are just gonna say this and have a tone deaf, right? Now I'm pulling up my boy Joey Lynn, who's a Clipper beat reporter. He's one of my guys, one of my dudes he goes to. You can even tell when that moment he's pissed because he is also a fan, albeit he's an objective one because he works. He's a beat reporter for the team. You could tell he did not like this because he definitely has an attachment to Lob City, right? Now, Lawrence Frank, he basically came out, started his press conference talking about saying these quotes. Quote from Lawrence Frank: we did not make this move because of our underperformance. He had nothing to do, or Chris Paul had nothing to do with that. We are not scapegoating Chris Paul. Sure you are, buddy. Typically, the first person to go in a situation that is as shitty as you are is typically called a scapegoat. When coaches in leagues get fired, it's typically because they are called a scapegoat for the higher power, aka Lawrence Frank. Again, like I mentioned in my 4 a.m. video, he's in SYA mode or CYA mode. He's in cover or save your ass mode because he's trying to save his job because the owner has basically put the onus on him to turn this ship around. He goes on to say, we have great respect for Chris for the career he's had. We're not blaming him for our underperformance. Sure you are, buddy. If you weren't blaming him, why are you cutting him? Because he's holding everybody accountable in the building. Oh, you know why? Because you got your panties in a wad. You got your feelings hurt. You got your ego stunted. And if you could tell, and this next comment I'm about to read off tells me how tone deaf he is about this whole situation to begin with, how tone deaf he is with the fan base, how out of touch he is with the fan base, and how much all these fans want his ass out of here. He quote says he emphasizes with any anger from the fan base that we had all morning to afternoon long, but he does go on to mention, but it was the right decision to make for the team. Oh, he empathizes with our anger. Really? You empathize with my anger? With any other Clipper fans' anger? Oh, no, 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 no. We're not doing that today. I'm not doing that. I'm going, no, no, no. No, 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 no. I'm not pulling up with this BS. You can lie your way out of saying, "Oh, I really understand how the fans are feeling. I really do, guys." If you understood how the fans were feeling, you never would have cut him to begin with. You would have understood how respected the fans view this guy. He was the heart and soul of the Clippers and one of the reasons why this organization is in the direction they are in today. Empathizes with the fan base. If you empathize with the fan base, you never want to pull the shady, slimy shit you did to begin with. That's not empathizing with the fan base. That's telling the fan base to fuck off, really, and just basically say, we don't care what you think. Fuck off, buddy. We're here to do our shit. Unfucking believable that this fucking dude had the audacity to freaking say shit like that. He empathizes with the fan base. Did you empathize with the fan base when you cut or you traded Blake Griffin away? Did you empathize with the fan base when you did this stunt? No, you didn't. You thought you did this move because your ego was hurt, because he told you what needs to happen in that organization, because you don't want to do your job, you don't want to be held accountable, and you don't want to freaking take any advice necessary to turn this ship around. Unfucking believable that this freaking loser of a GM, he's not he's the GM. I understand his titles as president of basketball operations, but he's the fucking GM. He makes the calls. He makes the moves. He organizes the roster. And because this one player who's been a legend in your organization, the one time he tells you, I think you need to do a little bit better at your job. You want to get butthurt about it? And he wants to freaking lie and says he empathizes with the fan base. Well, you empathize with the fan base, you would have called your PR department and say, hey man, what are the ramifications if we cut Chris Paul? Your PR dudes would be saying, I don't think this is a good idea because your fan base really loves this guy. He is a very much fan favorite. And if you do this, all hell on earth, you will be one step closer to losing the fan base. It's already bad enough. You guys are already bad as is. It would be worse, and you'd be basically getting to the point where fans will drop their fandom if you decide to do this move. And you want to know what? The Clippers decided to do the worst move possible. You already had some members in the fan base that just did not give a shit about the team. Me, that was me right here because they were bad, and I stopped watching. Tonight was the one game I actually watched and sat and watched from beginning to end. Because you want to know why I'm doing that? Because I'm hate watching this team. I want them to lose. I want them to go down and the ship just completely crumbles and it's burning and sinking like the goddamn Titanic. And there's no freaking comeback from this. Jack's freaking girlfriend, no, she drowns too. Just like Jack. So then necessary change does happen. Unfucking believable. Jesus. And then the playoff, like, oh, this is, the right decision for the team. That just shows me that the team is a bunch of bitches. That's what it shows me. They can't handle any critique necessary because this organization has changed into the organization where they don't like accountability being held for one another. They're the type of organization that the Clippers run, are the type of organization where they will let guys slide by and not do anything and just let guys just get by them in transition in a game, and they won't play no defense because these coaches don't hold the players accountable and these players don't hold each other accountable, and the front office doesn't hold the coaching and the players accountable. And yes, not Ty, Lawrence Frank today talked about how he takes accountability for everything that's gone wrong in this year. That's great. That's great. It would have been more believable if you lived up to your word. Because in the offseason, you said, we need to get younger. And then he presumably goes down there and goes sign some of the oldest dudes in the NBA, which makes your roster the oldest roster in the league. And you wonder why this team is bad. When you go out there and you go sign an old man, Brook Lopez, who's damn near 40, and he can't move laterally, he lets dudes blow right by him with absolute ease. You wonder why. Huh, the backup center sucks. And why are we, and maybe this is the reason why we're playing Kobe Brown, who's not an NBA player, all the time because we have no backup big because I'm still paying for it from the way back in 2023 when I decided to go after John Bleepin Wall so I could let Isaiah Hartenstein, who's on the Oklahoma City Thunder, get a freaking easy, nice, quality backup big man to Chet Holmgren. Still haven't found your backup big since you let Isaiah Hartenstein walk for god-awful John Wall. Don't talk to me about that. So there's that, right? Lawrence Frank, another problem I had with this dude that just said, kill me. I hate being a fan of this fucking team. He said, Ty Lue will continue to coach the Clippers as they try to turn around their season. Whoop-de-doodle-doo. And then he ended up talking about how he's going to be staying here for the foreseeable future. God, no. So this basically tells me you decided to choose the coach over one of your goats. Disgusting behavior. He then obviously goes on because they end up talking about like, oh, well, will this move essentially affect how you guys can get free agents to come here because of how bad you treated Chris Paul on the way out? And clearly, Lawrence Frank stupidly said, well, regardless, yes, we did what we did. We'll still be a destination for people to come to. Really? You believe that? We're a destination because, oh, we got the new fancy stadium and we got Steve Ballmer as our owner. The location, LA, it's a big market. You just cut arguably a player that has a lot of pull in this league. And you treated him like this on his retirement tour? And the reports are coming from the LA Times is he's unlikely to sign with any other team and he's just going to call it a career. So now maybe it's adding up why they did the tribute video because funny enough, we find out in other reports, I think from Tomer, apparently the Clippers were done with this dude like damn near 6, 7 games into the season already. So you're telling me this guy was already on this complaining crap this early on in the year and you were already sick of it? Well, this is the crazy part, right? And Joey Lynn did a great job in asking Lawrence Frank the question of basically saying, well, you knew what you were signing up for in terms of Chris Paul. You knew he had this type of mindset, this type of attitude. So if that's the case, why did you decide to even sign him? Lawrence Frank replied by saying, well, I like to keep some of those things in-house, you know. I don't want to let these things get out because I don't want to be looked as the bad guy, you know. Chris has had very good leadership style. He led a lot of teams, and he's led a lot of teams being one of the best players, if not the best player on the team. It's just the role. Some moves you make, you have a great intentions, and some move and some work and some don't. And I own that. And this one just didn't work. And that's what even bullshit Ty Lue said. Like, yeah, it's just one of those moves that just didn't work out for us. Well, then you should have never signed him to begin with. You should have told him in the offseason, hey man, we would love to bring you back, but I just don't think you're a fit for us. Plain and simple. Now the question is, if they were, say, 16-5, do they do this move? Probably not because they're winning. And they guess what? They probably would be able to stand his incessant, like I guess, accountability that clearly triggered all of them. Because guess what? They're winning. They're gonna be like, oh well, we'll live with it. Absolute much of a damn joke, this freaking loser said, bro. And then Lawrence Frank goes on to say, like, well, if I'm wrong, because the media asked him the question, like, well, what if it actually ends up getting worse still and you guys are not doing good? And Lawrence Frank said, well, if I'm wrong and this roster isn't capable of doing more or finding a way to essentially rebound, then we'll always be aggressive in trying to fix it. We'll explore every avenue to make this team better. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean giving up and sacrificing our 2030 draft pick to go get a DeMar DeRozan? Does that mean you're going to go out there and go get more old guys because, oh, we need to find any way to be competitive? Unbelievable, dude. Unfucking believable. He said that statement. Well, we'll be as aggressive as we can. This goes to show you, dude, this team, I can't even talk. I can't even think. This is how frustrated I am with this whole operation. It's all stupidity. It's all stupidity. It's all stupid. That's what it is. They don't respect the fan base. They don't respect their own players, especially their legendary players. You don't do that to him. And LA Times talking about how he probably is unlikely he signs with another team. So essentially, he's going out not on his own terms. He's going out because the Clippers said, we're sick and tired of you. We're sick and tired of your attitude. Go home. Now, he's still technically on the team because they can't trade him or they can't cut him or waive him till December 15th. Oh my goodness. But again, him talking about we need, if this roster really doesn't prove that there are what they can live up to, I will have to be aggressive. And what does that mean? Does that mean trading more picks for more old guys and mortgaging your future even more for this stupid era that's already run its course, that's already dead? Clearly, that's what it sounds like, because that's what Lawrence Frank does. He freaking trades draft picks away like they're candy from a candy store. I said this time in again and time out again. Every single time I talk about Lawrence Frank and how he's treated these draft picks we have, it's always just like the stupid Rams mindset. He's always doing this F them picks, F them picks, F them picks mindset. Thinking, oh, we can just trade all these dudes away and we'll get a superstar. It's the same mindset you had when you traded all the world's picks for Shea and Kawhi. When will this organization fucking realize it's better to build something from the ground up, suck for a bit, build it up through the draft, and build a young team up, and then guess what? Boom! You can maybe potentially be like the Thunder, homegrown talent, yada, yada, yada. That's what happened with the Clippers back in Lob City. We had homegrown talent. We built that up and had free agent acquisitions. And what happened? We were good. Not title contender good, but we were consistently good. These dudes believe in, well, we don't believe in drafting and developing. That won't make us competitive. That won't get these young players like a Kobe Sanders, Cam Christie, Yannick, and Conan Niederhauser. these dudes these reps that they need to get so we can see if they're actually NBA qualified, not sending them down to the freaking G League team in Oceanside and having these dudes play meaningless basketball against competition that is probably no better than they are, and we got to see these dudes play against NBA level competition. If you looked at what freaking Kobe Sanders did tonight and what he's done in the past few games, he's shown that he is an NBA caliber player when given actual good minutes from the coach and when he's not being sabotaged by the coach. But these guys don't believe in we need to actually use our young players and give them valuable minutes to see what we got in them. Because your dumbass owner doesn't want to suck for a bit. He wants to be, I need to be competitive, guys. We just got to be competitive every single year. You were willing after the Lob City years to be competitive with role players, realistically, just really role players, and you were still making the playoffs. Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. I just can't believe that these dudes decided to choose Lawrence Frank and Tyronn Lue over Chris Paul, a legend. And yes, there's some Clipper fans on social media. They're like, well, this needed to happen. It's a good move that they happened. He was just old and he didn't need to be here. Well, guess what? You don't do that to a franchise GOAT. You know what you tell him? You just don't play. You tell him to be Udonis Haslem. And if that's something he doesn't like, then that's when you amicably part ways. And it's even more effed up how they were sick and done with him and they wanted this dude cut. There's a report that says they wanted him cut after Miami. Or even going into the Miami game, they wanted him gone. They made their mind up like, no, this guy needs to get out of the locker room. Well, then why after the Dallas Mavericks game did you not bring him into your office and say, "Hey, man, pack your bags. Don't worry about getting on the plane for us to head off to Miami. We're going to let you go." Like, geez, Louise, man. Like, why didn't you do that? Or why didn't you just be like, you know what? Let's get through this road trip, and then when we get back home, that's when we decide to make the move to let him go. Why not let him go in in LA at home? Why are we doing this on the freaking road? That only tells me that they were so sick and tired of it that they just said, we don't give a fuck about the optics. He needs to go now. He needs to get out of here. And you sent him home, Atlanta, Georgia, and he probably took a plane ride, probably commercial, probably bought his own ticket and everything to go home. And lo and behold, he posts on a social media page him FaceTiming DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin, and they were all laughing. And that's my childhood right there. All of those individuals were done dirty in some sort of way by the Clippers. Chris, Blake Griffin, he got freaking traded. DeAndre Jordan, he had an okay split from the team because the team just didn't want to pay him. And then now Chris Paul in the second stint. See, in the first stint, when he knew it was time to go, he requested the front office, "Hey, trade me, take me somewhere else, and I'll help you out. I'll, excuse me, I'll do you a raw deal." This time, the front office like, "No, no, no, I'm not letting you." And when you see that image on social media of them clearly probably FaceTiming, one, I wish I was on a wall. I wish I was a fly on a wall hearing what they were talking about. But it really goes to show you that this organization 100% does not respect anything to do with Lob City anymore. And they effectively want to kill any relationship with Lob City that they had. This is your history. Those were the dudes that put this organization on the map to make this a respectable organization. And you want to ostracize these dudes and act as if they weren't special. Maybe that's why the Clippers gave this dude a tribute video. Maybe that's why Chris Paul on his Instagram posted throwback highlights of Lob City because he knew his time was up coming soon. He knew TikTok, TikTok. Oh, I've run out of time. Absolutely disgusting behavior from the Clippers. I can't believe they did that shit. And this just goes in as I get to the end of this video because I want to just go relax and enjoy the rest of my freaking Wednesday evening. It just goes to show you that this organization from the top down does not hold themselves accountable. Lawrence Frank doesn't hold himself accountable because he says he's going to do these moves, but he never does them. AKA the move, the number one simple move is I'm going to make this roster get younger, and we continue to make these roster older. Steve Ballmer, the owner of the team, doesn't hold Tyronn Lue and Lawrence Frank accountable for why the team is bad as it is right now. How are you not asking the questions? What's going on here? Why are we 5-15? And you just don't fire these morons and get them out of power. Tyronn Lue doesn't hold himself accountable for his lazier than thou rotations and his terrible coaching, and on top of it, his lack thereof of a soft mindset going into these games where he's not letting his players know that we need to be urgent. And then you look at the superstar players. And I'm not talking about the ones on the current team. I'm talking about number 2 and PG-13. I'm talking about those two as the main quote unquote leaders of the team or the organization when we acquired these guys in 2019 and the 213 era began. Paul George was never a leader, and nor he was never a guy that held himself accountable. There's multiple times he's always ducked the accountability. When he had a bad playoff game, he blamed it on his mental health in the bubble. Talking about, I really went through a lot. My mental health was going through the roof, man. In this bubble, just locked here. And he attributed that to as the reason why he played bad in that Dallas series. And then he followed up by putting up stinkers in the Denver series, and that's what led to also the team having a 3-1 choke job. He never held himself accountable. Paul George was that ninja that never held himself accountable. This is the same dude, but in 2023, he had a terrible game, and he was over here bitching and crying about getting Russell Westbrook back on the team or bringing him over here. And of course, Lawrence Frank bending over, taking it up the booty hole, just said, "Okay, Paul George, I know you were crying like a little baby about this, and you should have played a lot better game, but we'll bring your best friend on board. Okay, we'll let it slide." And Paul George basically cried his way, and the Clippers got him what he wanted. He had his teammates were his best friends. Paul George never held himself accountable. And in his last playoff series, he never even held himself accountable for how bad he played. He blamed everybody else. This is the same guy, too, talking about, "Oh, I don't want to be a ball handler. Coach Rivers had me as a JJ Redick type of player." And then when we end up actually giving him the ball, then he doesn't want to be, and he's bad with it because he was always turning the ball over. He's like, "No, no, no, I don't want to be a ball handler. I want to just be a spot-up shooter. That's not my game." This clown never took accountability in his tenure here. And that's why his ass was gone. That's why the Clippers never gave him the no-trade clause. One, because they knew, oh, we could do this shit like we did to Chris Paul. And then two, we didn't want to give this dude because he's an unaccountable dude that doesn't want to hold himself accountable. And he blames everybody else around him before he blames himself. So he can try to save face. But see, Paul George is a dumbass. He's an idiot. He has no thinking of what he's going to say. He's another tone-deaf moron. He thinks what he says is the right thing, but the problem is he talks too much, and he doesn't know when to close that mouth of his and just shut the fuck up. I remember going into a dome when we first played him and he returned, and the fan base had the sign that said, "You need to stay quiet." And it's funny, right? It's funny. See, the swell section, right? The swell, right? They're gonna take offense and get upset at anybody that's gonna come out on Monday and have Lawrence Fring and fire Ty chance. But this was the same swell that they basically had probably some crazy shit of telling Paul George respectfully to shut the fuck up, where they had literal signs saying that. Literal signs in the swell. But yet this swell wants to be, oh no, no, no. You can't chant fire L Frank and fire Ty Lue. That doesn't go here, dog. We can't do that here. But this is the same team that has the swell that, they got a donkey mask, people wearing donkey mask or having a donkey horse type of stick to mock Joker or Nikola Jokic, any other crap that they're doing up there to mock a player. But this is the same organization that just won't allow you to chant fire Ty Lue, fire Lawrence Frank. Because you want to know why? Communist state run media. It's like the Angels. They don't allow anybody to run or dictate the narratives. It's fall in line, otherwise you're gone. Paul George doesn't take accountability. He never did, he never will, and that's why I forever hate him. And then don't give me started on number two. Again, I already said number two does shit on his own time. That's the other day talking about how this team needs more talent. He doesn't hold himself accountable. You're the leader. He should be saying, no, I need to hold myself accountable because I'm not leading this team. But no, he's a mute. He doesn't talk. He's a mime. That's what Kawhi is. He just comes in, shows up, and does his thing. And that's it. He goes home. He doesn't hold himself accountable. You know why? Because he's not trying to win us a championship. So from top to bottom, none of these dudes held him accountable. And Chris Paul was the one guy, the one voice in there that was willing to hold everybody accountable for how bad we were. And because of it, the team didn't want to listen to him. They said, I know this ain't this guy talking. Yeah. I'm I'm fed up, dude. I'm done with this. I'm done with this. This organization continues to just want to be put in the gutter, continue to do some of the bullshit that they continue to do, and they want to continue to spew that we will turn this ship around. You're not. No, you're not. I hope they lose the next few games. I hope they give a top 3 draft pick to OKC. So then that's when Ballmer has to step in and realize he needs to fire these two losers because he's tainted your franchise. But I don't know if Ballmer's ever going to do that. Is Ballmer ever going to fire Tyronn Lue and Lawrence Frank? No. And it's clear that Tyronn Lue and Lawrence Frank are a package deal. So if one goes, the other one's going to clearly go. Today, Lawrence Frank basically gave his vote of confidence in Ty Lue. That's fine. He can have his vote of confidence. I say, fuck off. Absolute disgrace. Absolute disgrace. You don't treat somebody like that. And for Chris Paul to go out there and want to hold the team accountable, I don't fucking blame him. He wants to win. He knows his team could be better. And you don't want to be held accountable for this. And multiple people have gone on the road and said, especially like, for example, Boogie Cousins. He basically said, like, Lawrence Frank is a sleazeball. He's a loser. He hasn't done anything special. What has he done special to warrant getting the benefit of the doubt? Lou Williams today, he eventually said, like, look, I've been letting it slide for the past 3 years, and I let you guys talk bad about Lawrence, but I can't defend it. Even Lou Williams was like, You look at everything, the optics are bad, and you look at the way that Lawrence Frank does business, and especially when it comes to these veteran players, he's the type of guy that will cut you loose because he feels like, no, we really do value you. We do value you. And the next thing you know, he'll trade your ass for a bag of potato chips, or he'll cut you, which means he never did value you. He only looked out for his own damn self, and he only looked out for what's, best at heart for him so he doesn't lose his job. He did it to Lou Williams. He did it to Blake Griffin. He did it to Terrence Mann last year. He did it to Norman Powell last year too, or this past off season. When you go into these meetings with these guys saying, "We really love you, we really value you," and then a month later you just trade them away like they were nothing. That's why Norman Powell said the way shit he said yesterday or on Monday. How he doesn't care. That's not my problem. Because he was slighted by Lawrence Frank. And Lawrence Frank is that white trash sleazeball where he hides in the closet doing his little bullshit, not wanting to hold himself accountable, spewing these lies to these players, saying we really value you. But when it's tick, 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 I know your time is up here. Then you do the Rodden thing and you just let them go and you trade them away like as if they're nothing, like they didn't mean anything to you. After going on record every single time saying how much you appreciate and how much we love you being here. These players have um what wised up to what Lawrence Frank does. I don't still don't like it, but this is the exact reason why Paul George asked for no trade clause because he knows Lawrence Frank is a slime ball because he will trade you in a heartbeat if it means I can find a way to save my ass. And I would like to hear what other players like a Terrence Mann, what Norman Powell really feels because Lou Williams was one of the first dudes that said it, and he talked about it. He said like, you know, he's always a weird guy. And he even said, like, no, these moves are coming from him. They're coming from him. This is not a Ballmer thing. Yes, Ballmer has to approve and sign off these decisions. But the reason why I'm not as mad at Ballmer in this whole situation is because I know at the end of the day, who's the guy to bring up this idea to Ballmer? Lawrence Frank. And right now, Big Ballmer is in this mode of like, well, he doesn't care about the optics. He doesn't care about the bad publicity that the organization is getting. They were getting ripped to shreds by everyone. Like, you're a laughing stock by doing this move the way you did it. Do you have some common sense, Steve? But no, he doesn't. He trusts Lawrence Frank and Ty Lue too much, where he's like, well, if you feel like that's the best interest, go do it. He doesn't check these guys. He doesn't tell them, well, what is this going to do to my franchise? See, Steve Ballmer didn't ask Lawrence Frank, like, dog, is this going to give us any bad press? And if Lawrence said straight up, yeah, no, it won't, then Lawrence Frank is lying. It's a joke, man. It's a joke. And I'm through with this team, dude. I'm through with the team. I hope they lose to Memphis on I think Friday. Because again, like I said, they only beat a Hawks team with no Porzingis, no Jalen Johnson, and no Trae Young. So of course, you should beat them with the bad god awful roster you had. But I'm done with this crit. I'm done. I can't take any more of this. This team has completely killed my passion and my love because they continue to wrong people. And the more that they wrong people, the more they just further continue to get exposed. And the reason why I want a sinking ship like the Titanic is because that means Lawrence Frank and Ty Lue get fired next year. So For Clipper fans, you can fan how you want to fan. You want to still support the team? Go ahead and support the team. If you want to be critical of this team and hold them accountable, I don't blame you. I still say don't fall for this BS. They're gonna see what's gonna happen is gonna write off some wins. They're gonna play it off like, oh, we did something miraculous. We're coming back from our horrible start to try to get back in the good grace with the fans. But it's up to the fans to not budge. Not budge. We have to be like the Dallas Maverick fans. We don't budge. You call these guys out. And I'm probably be in the building. I have to just get my tickets for that. And we as a fan base in unison in Intuit Dome on Monday, December 15th, have to call out the organization. We have to let them hear our cries. And it's going to be very depressing if in Intuit Dome, not everybody is chanting Fire Ty and Fire L Frank. So hopefully a chant gets started because that's what should happen. Like the moment they come out, the Clippers fans should be booing the Clippers. So I just hope the Clipper fans, they don't forget what happened today on December 3rd and they hold the organization accountable and they call them out on December 15th. So for people going to that game, speak your mind. Don't let any of these employees who work for the Clippers tell you to shut up. Bring signs that says Fire Ty and Fire L Frank. Bring them all. Make your voices heard. Because when this organization hears your cries and your pleas, they won't push you away as much as they want to. They'll accept the fact that this is not good publicity for us and we made a mistake. So, there's that. Clippers, albeit get a win against the Hawks. I don't give a fuck. I'm done. I'm already tapped out with the Clippers. I don't care. I don't care. So, if you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section your thoughts. Hit that subscribe button if you want to get more Clippers content. If there's any other crazy news about this Chris Paul shit, I'll post it on the channel. Look forward to NFL predictions, hopefully this Saturday if I can get to it. It is conference championship week. I'll have to hit my Uncle Daryl up to see if he wants to do a prediction video. And then my Chicago Bears game recap, where I hope the Chicago Bears continue their winning ways, don't piss me off, and they find a way to beat their hated rivals in the Green Bay Packers. So then guess what? I can talk my shit to Packer fans, and the Bears winning cures my hatred for the Clippers. So look forward to that around Sunday evening, whenever that may be. Anyways, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. Catch you guys in the next video. Till then, guys, stay safe out there. Have a great rest of your day or your night or watching this video, and I will catch you guys later on the next sports video. Till then, guys, have a great night. Peace.